Brothers War's been out a while now, but is the meta solved? Is Azorius Soldiers busted? Or will there be a new deck or spicy brew that saves us? Let's talk about it. What is up, YouTube? Aeneas here. Hope you're having a fine time on the arena ladder. Today we're going to do another Monday metagame update and talk about kind of the state of standard and some recent tournament, and then some spicy brews people have been trying out on the ladder and posting on Twitter. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, well, to start things off with the standard meta, things have looked a little bit solved, it seems like. I wouldn't say we're completely solved yet. People are still trying some stuff out, but definitely a meta is forming. If you look at the best of one ladder in Diamond to Mythic, pretty much aggro is king there. So we've got mono white soldiers taking the #1 spot, Azorius Soldiers close behind that as the #2. Both have a very strong win rate, 56%. So very, very solid decks. And then mono black aggro is actually moved up. It was falling behind a little bit towards the beginning of the season, but it has a strong comeback. And then mono red burn, which was about a 52% win rate before, now moved up to 54. So they've really been refining their lists and doing a lot better with that deck than they had been. And for best of one, that's about it. Grixis mid-range doing okay, 53%, but not super great. So control is lagging behind a little bit so far, as well as mid-range. But in terms of popularity, it's all aggro all the way. Azorius Soldiers, mono red burn, and mono black aggro. So if you're building a deck just for ranking up, I would recommend building something that beats the aggro list, something either a little bit larger aggro or something with a lot of sweepers to rank up on the ladder. I also wanted to show just the mythic ranks for now, because I did see something interesting a bit earlier. So if we look at the mythic ranks for best of one, you can see that although Azorius Soldiers and mono white soldiers are doing very well at the top spots with almost a 60% win rate, which is just crazy. So is it busted? It might be busted. 60% win rate in best of one. That's almost Oko levels of strong. So if you were here for when Oko was around, it had, I think, around a 65% win rate in best of one across the board. So this is getting pretty close to that. But we do see some hope down here with Jeskai Control, 57% win rate, and Esper Legends and Grixis and Rakdos all doing pretty well in the mid-range categories. But yeah, the Jeskai Control deck seemed kind of cool to me. So I tried to look into it more, but Untapped was not showing me any decks. It does kind of show me what's in the deck though, so we can take a look. Then we've got things like Farewell, Wandering Emperor, Teferi, some Silver Scrutiny, Hullbreaker Horror, Brother's End, and Depopulate. So seems like kind of your run-of-the-mill control with Teferi, Wandering Emperor, with just a lot of sweepers to deal with all those aggro creatures. So if that is your preferred type of deck, like myself, maybe Jeskai is the way to go. Something I haven't tried brewing with, so maybe in the next couple week or two, maybe I'll try to brew something in Jeskai and try it out in a YouTube video. So yeah, stay tuned for that. All right, and then if we look at the best of 3 ladder, pretty similar, but we see some contenders for the top spot. Azorius Soldiers still very good, 65% win rate almost in best of 3. So yeah, very strong. But Mardu Angels, which is mid-range, you could say mid-range or even a slow mid-range deck, is doing very well also in best of 3. So this is with the Steel Seraph, with the oh shoot, what are the other angels? There's a 2-drop angel which buffs your other angels. Archangel of Wrath, which does the life gain and deal 2 damage. You've got the big 6-drop angel, which draws you a card. So Mardu Angels very strong in best of 3, doing quite well. And potentially I think could be very good in best of one as well, but just don't really see it on the ladder that much. Maybe aggro is too fast for it, that just can't handle it, but I think you could make a Mardu Angels deck that played around the idea of the opponent always playing aggro, because pretty much best of one is just always aggro all the time. All right, yeah, and then mono black mid-range doing pretty good in best of three. Grixis also quite good in best of three, and this Grixis list is kind of leaning on the control side because they have like Shieldred, Invoke Despair, and sometimes even bigger things like Corrupt or stuff like that. So yeah, Grixis mid-range is another good option for best of three. So all of those are sitting around a 57% win rate, very respectable, and good choices if that's your preferred type of standard. As far as the meta, we see that for overall in best of three, actually Mardu Angels is the best deck, and Esper Legends also is tied at the top spot. So if you like best of three and you like mid-range, then Mardu Angels, Esper Legends, both very, very good choices for you to play with on the ladder. All right, and in tournaments, there's only one really big tournament over this weekend. That was this Pizza Box Challenge, or Pizza Box Open. About 100 players, something like that in this one. And Grixis took the top spots. Grixis Control took first and second, and Mono White mid-range taking third place, which is kind of an interesting deck. You don't see that often. Wandering Emperor, Sanctuary Warden, that's the big 6-drop I couldn't think of before. Depopulate, Lay Down Arms, so lots of removal, and then a lot of big flying creatures to win the game. So pretty much mono white control for that one. And I think the Grixis lists are probably your standard Shieldred, Invoke Despair type decks. Yeah, Shieldred, Bloodtithe Harvester, Invoke Despair. Yeah. This one has Brotherhood's End. So that's something similar to what I've been playing as well, adding some Brotherhood Ends into your Grixis mid-range to make it more control-y. All right, so that's it for the tournaments. So not a whole lot of saviors there, but it seems like Grixis always dominates the tournaments, but on the ladder, it doesn't do quite as well. So don't know what that says. Maybe people just are too afraid to try these other decks in the tournaments. I don't know. Okay, now let's get to the best part, the spicy brews, the saviors, the things that are going to save us from our boredom on the ladder and shake up the meta. So this first one is actually a historic deck, but it was too cool for me not to include in the video. This is a blue-white affinity deck, and you've probably seen something pretty similar to it in historic if you've played it all, but this one has gone even smaller, even quicker. It's got Springleaf Drum in here to give you that quick ramp and to just add another 4 of the really early affinity drops. And it also is running Ornithopter, which a lot of decks are not running. Probably also to kind of synergize with that Springleaf Drum and give you that quick ramp. Patchwork Automaton, because you're going to be playing a lot of artifacts for very cheap, so it's going to grow quickly. And then we've got this new card, Forging the Anchor, which is a dig spell for artifacts. I think what it says is look at the top 5 and put 1 in your hand. That's an artifact, and the rest in your graveyard or something like that. So it's a good way to find your key pieces. And then, oh no, this one's different. I think this one says draw all of the artifacts. Look at the top 5, draw all the artifacts. So that could potentially get you 2 or 3 good cards. And then Thought Monitor, draw 2 with affinity. It's very strong. And even the Mer Enforcer for the affinity, since we have so many good 1-drops that are artifacts and 0-drops that are artifacts. So you're just gonna get that affinity really, really fast. All right, so pretty sweet. I like the new upgrades for that. So if you're an affinity fan, this is probably just a strict upgrade to whatever you've been playing before. So pretty cool. And then the next one, this is a Reanimator deck, but this one has a little bit of a spin on it. This is in standard, so this is not historic. But they are using the Stern Lesson, which draw 2, discard a card, and then you create a tapped Power Stone. So that's another really cool one, and it's an instant. The benefit of this is, turn 3, you can discard your big artifact. You can create a Power Stone to help you cast those artifacts as well. And the Power Stone can also be used with the Tezzeret to turn it into a creature, which is sweet. And then on turn 5, Invoke Justice goes off. You get back your big artifact. You put the counters on the 4/4 that you just created with Tezzeret. And now you've got an 8/8, and you have a Portal to Phyrexia on the battlefield. So pretty crazy, right? Yeah, so that just seems busted in all senses. And the early game is just kind of like a control game, trying to stop the opponent from burning you out with their aggro. So you got Lay Down Arms, you got Make Disappear, and a little bit of life gain and stuff like that. But yeah, seems like a pretty sweet deck. Definitely one that I'll probably try out on the ladder some. But I've made a couple of videos similar to this, so I might not make another video on this one unless people are really interested. All right, so that one's cool, especially if you're a U-White fan. And then another cool one from Elliot Dragon is this Mono Black Burn deck. So this one is pretty similar to the Mono Black control decks that were going around, but he's got these 4 Gix command to give him that little extra burst and life gain, and also to bring back creatures like the Trespasser or Shieldred after the opponent kills them. Also, it acts as a removal for the opponent's creatures, so very cool all around. But the really cool piece that I like in this deck is the fact he's running Corrupt. So that's a 6 mana card that says deal damage to any target equal to the number of swamps you control, and then you gain that much life. So when you cast it, it's always going to do at least 6 damage to some target, and you gain 6 life. And one of the big problems with the Mono Black control decks is, you know, you do some early game damage with the Underdog, you do some damage with Shieldred, you might do some damage with Invoke Despair, you get them to around 6 or 8 life, and then you get stuck. And with the Corrupt, you're now finishing them off, right? Because it's always going to do at least 6 and potentially more. And so that should be enough to just finish the game. If not, it's still going to heal you for at least 6. So maybe you're losing to aggro, you could kill some creature, gain the 6, and that should put you more in a stabilizing position than you were before. So pretty cool. I would love to see another version with maybe 2 Corrupts, or maybe even 3 potentially, but probably 2, so that you have a chance to draw it a little bit more and see how well it does. So yeah, interesting take on Mono Black. Really love to see some innovation there, and I'll definitely be trying this out some myself to see how well it does. All right, and then for the last spicy brew, we got this Esper mid-range deck, but it's got some interesting new cards that other people haven't really tried in the Esper shell. We have the Gix Yawgmoth Praetor, 3 mana. Whenever you deal damage, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. That's one that really hasn't been run in here. I'm not sure why. It's a legend and it's very cool. Draws you cards, so that's pretty sweet. And then they're also running Into the Trenches, which is the 3 mana Anthem effect that has, for 6 mana, you can exile something. So it makes sense in a mid-range shell where you're going to play stuff for 3 mana and you're going to play stuff up to 6 mana as well, pretty easily. So probably it's never going to be dead where you can't use the 6 mana ability. And then the other really cool card that I love in this deck, which most people don't include because it's not a legend, is the Steel Seraph. And this card has been a really big all-star in a lot of decks, especially the aggro decks and the Martyr Angels and stuff like that. And I think it just makes sense in the shell. Like, you're going to play it for 3 sometimes, you're going to play it for 6 sometimes because it's a mid-range deck. Gains you life, gives you creatures flying to get that extra draw in from the Gix. And yeah, all in all, it's just a good card. So really love to see it. I like the idea of going a little bit wide with the Resolute Reinforcements and the Wedding Announcement, and then pumping them up with the Trenches or drawing with your Gix or stuff like that. So I think this is a very cool version of Esper that we haven't really seen like that, seen something like this. And it did very well for this person. They got to, you know, rank 34 on the Mythic ladder with an 8-0 run. So no losses. So yeah, very sweet. I think if you are into the mid-range kind of style, like maybe you're playing Martyr Angels right now, this might be something you try out. It's probably not that many different of cards, and looks pretty cool and interesting. So check it out. All right, well, I think that's gonna be it. So yeah, it seems like Azorius aggro is pretty busted, but it's not unbeatable still currently. There are a few control decks that are doing okay, like the Jeskai one we saw, Grixis ones, and then Esper midrange is doing well, and the Mardu midrange is doing well, especially in best of 3. So you got quite a bit of variety in the format, but I would say that it is settling a bit. I mean, we've got these powerful cards that are just kind of dominating the format, I would almost say, like Shieldred. It's just kind of a format warping card at this point. Not necessarily a bad thing because it's not super powerful, but just the fact that it has 5 toughness and that, you know, each turn it does something makes it pretty strong in the format, and people have to respect it. But yeah, you saw we had some cool spicy brews, so I hope you can try them out on the ladder, have some fun, and definitely you can get to Mythic with any of these decks. So give it a shot. Till next time, see ya.